Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the kro.Productions podcast, where we talk about the importance of living life outside of the work that we do. I am one of your hosts, Kimberly Rotette, and we have my spouse here with me today also.
I'm Dadiela Rodriguez.
She is Dadiela Rodriguez, but today we wanted to take a few minutes to talk about our process and decision to sell our house and opt to live RV life. We had our home. It was a space that I think both of us worked, even before we knew each other, we were working for something similar. And we had worked for almost 20 years in order to be able to buy the house with the backyard space that we want. And then we took a little bit of an unconventional path. After 5 years of living in the house, we decided to sell. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk a little bit more about our process. All right, but before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you guys find your podcast, but you can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All right, but today we're talking about the decision to sell the house and opt for RV life, and it seems like, and Dadiela, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but it seems like RV life is kind of a popular lifestyle right now when you look at social media. Do you think so, or do you think not?
I mean, I guess it depends on who you're looking at and where you're looking. Like, of course, you go into the YouTube space and the social media space, influencers and things like that, and I think that for a lot of that community, this can kind of be like something that gets a lot of views or something that people are trying to do to kind of just have a little bit more freedom, I guess, in their life and still make a living, which is not what we're looking to do or what we were looking to do in order to do this. It was just kind of simplifying life and making the next step easier. But I guess with some of that influencer life, understanding how to live like this has become a little bit easier.
So maybe safer to say that avenues for, I think, maybe people of a more diverse age range to do this type of lifestyle is maybe a little bit more pertinent or a little bit more, just maybe a little bit more readily available. It's a little bit more popular right now. Did it used to be that if people were RVing, it was because they were doing so in their retirement years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, what did you ask? I'm sorry. What was your question? How did you phrase it?
So getting into RVing, I feel like, and maybe it's just because of the power of social media, that it seems like more people now, more than ever, are doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. I know, like, when we went shopping for, kind of jumping ahead in the story, when we went shopping for this new RV, there was a lot more availability than, because we had an RV when I was a kid, and so I think there was a lot more availability for very livable RVs. Versus just your kind of standard, maybe one pop out, kind of bump out area, and to create a little bit more walking space. There was more opportunities for more livable RVs, and I think that I would venture to say that the market has driven those options. So yeah, I think that with the uptick in like influencers and things like that who are choosing to live this life, that it has become a little more popular. And I have some friends who chose to live in an RV kind of in the opposite way. Like, they did it as younger people, like some of my friends who are a little bit younger, some of my colleagues, my coworkers, chose to do it because we have these newer options in RVs now. And they are kind of like tiny homes almost, but on wheels, so mobile. Because living in homes was really expensive for them. They're single, starting off in their careers. The RVs that they had were a little bit smaller than what we have now, probably closer to the one that we had before. So very, very cost efficient. Like, I have a friend who bought a new truck and got an RV because she needed a new car anyway, and chose to do the RV life because it was cheaper than renting an apartment to get a brand new car and a brand new RV and live in a resort. It was maybe half the cost of a small one-bedroom apartment.
Right.
And she's like, I'm investing in something. When I choose to get a house, I can turn around and sell this, or I can keep it as a weekend thing later on. The communities are quiet. It's more efficient than living in an apartment. it's safer in a sense because you don't have people up and down and constantly coming in and out of the same space that you're in. Because a lot of them are gated and a lot of apartment complexes aren't, or if they're gated, they're quote unquote gated. The gates are open or usually broken, so they're pushed open. So she's just like, it was just a smarter decision. And when she chose to leave where we were working and go to a new place out of town, she literally hitched her home up and took off and still had that ease of movement. So I think as like housing prices are going higher and stuff like that too, like a friend of mine lived in an RV with her husband to save money so they could pay off pretty much half of their home after a few years when they bought a new one and decided it was time to start a family. So, and again, probably about 20 years younger than me and didn't have the years of experience and everything to be able to create the opportunity for income to be able to turn around and buy a house. When they wanted to, they really had to put a lot of money away, and they wanted to do it in a smart way because life is more expensive than it was for our parents, and so therefore they were like, this is smarter. Again, they turned around, they sold the RV that was able to contribute to their down payment. I mean, it just made a lot more sense. So I think overall, given the economic environment, generational like ability to purchase with non-existing wealth, unfortunately, I mean, I don't mean to laugh when I say that, but I mean, it is a reality for a lot of millennials and such. And after them, and just people making smarter moves and them, you know, RVs not being what they used to be. I think that, yeah, it is a little bit easier. Sorry, I think I went a really long way to say yes.
It's okay. I'm used to that. But to your point, though, seems like it, from the power of social media, it's a lot more visible for a lot of people to be viewing this type of housing lifestyle. To your point, and even with your parents, though, 20 plus years ago, when they were building one of the houses that they were in, they lived in their RV. You know, we've had neighbors here in our current RV resort who were doing the same thing. Your friend who, when she got a new job, hitched up and moved her entire home. Just for as long as it made sense financially, they were making good financial moves. But that kind of comes back to the reason why we chose to sell the house that we truly loved. It was super comfy, super cozy, and just our happy place in so many ways. And in that regard, hard to leave. But from a financial situation, knowing what we were putting that return on investment to be able to put that towards our retirement so that we weren't crippled financially in retirement, it was a really smart financial decision for us. We're just doing RV life a little bit different now because I think we mentioned it, but let's clarify it. We're not full-time on the road. That's not what we're doing. Let's clarify that up front. I think maybe we both look forward to the day where we have a home base and can be maybe 75, maybe 50 to 75% on the road full-time in retirement, but always having a home base. So we are full-time stationary. We used to be that weekend warrior person. We bought our first RV in 2020 when the pandemic hit, the first RV, 2020, 2021. It was during the pandemic, and we knew we wanted to travel. We just wanted to do so a little bit, you know, with some safety conscious and being safety conscious in mind. But we quickly discovered that our weekend warrior mobile was not meant for full-time living. That can be a whole other podcast altogether. But if we kind of go back to some of the things that what we were saying, why RV life? Well, we go and we think, well, gosh, it's a really personal choice. Like this is our personal choice. It helps sets us up for our future. And it sounds like some of your friends that you were referencing, it was very much the same mentality. You know, and I think we probably, I know I've heard it. I feel like, I don't know if you've heard it, or if some of your friends that you were referencing heard it. And by it, I mean, not everyone understands people choosing to do this lifestyle. We went from a really comfortable 2,200 square foot house. I think we're in 416 square feet now.
I have no idea. I haven't measured it. But I mean, yeah, and in a sense, like, just to kind of maybe jump into the reason, just because we're kind of working around it and not quite, you know, explaining it yet, but I think it'd be a good place to do so. I think, like, so,
maintaining 2 households.
Yeah, we were maintaining 2 households because I live about 3.5 hours away. We both, when we left where we met, which was Ohio, for Texas, which is where we're living now and choosing to kind of expand on our careers, our jobs ended up in two separate places. And so I am with my family, like where I grew up and everything, working and loving my job, absolutely loving my job. Lucky enough to work I work in education, so lucky enough to work in a district that pays really well. I know a lot of teachers are kind of facing the situation where like they're working two jobs, and some of the teachers still do. We're lucky enough we don't have children or anything like that to worry about, but my district does pay well. Like they are very focused on supporting everybody from the top to the bottom of the district, and I don't know if I could love a place more than where I work at. I mean, I just have to say that because I have the opportunity to really kind of maximize my salary. If we would live in the same place, that would be severely undercut.
Right.
And I am one of those people who, when I retire, I want to retire. Like, I will give my employer, whoever it is throughout the years, the different ones that I've had, 110% of me when I am there. And that includes extracurriculars and things like that. But when I retire, I want to be done. Like, with all due respect, like to a lot of the people who retire and are like, I love working, so I'm going to continue to sub or whatever. I can't do my job without those individuals, but I've never wanted to do that because I want to travel. I want to do stuff. I want to go and see things. I have family across the ocean. I want to go visit, my family there. And so we made the conscious decision that like we were going to be willing to have that two household situation as long as it needed to be done. So looking to become more centered in one location, eventually, we realized that having the house kind of anchored us to one location.
Right. And the Rio Grande Valley is not our long-term home.
As many good things as it has, it's not where we're from. It's not where our friends and family are. And it's just not, it was served its great purpose. But it's not where we're looking to be forever. And so I was like, why are we paying into this house any longer than we have to? We kind of got in on that housing boom.
We did. We got a great deal.
We knew we wanted to do RVs later on in the future. So I was like, we're doing this backwards. But for us, which would be forwards for most people. That's kind of how we live our life. And so, but I was like, we have an RV. Why don't we get the one that we really want in retirement and pay for that now? Sell the house, so we're no longer anchored. And then wherever life takes us, that's where it's going to take us. But in the meantime, why are we not paying off what we're going to have in retirement?
Right.
If we know we're just going to sell this house anyway, and when we do choose to sell later, it may not be at the maximum price. So we made what for us was a good financial decision, and decided that we were going to walk away from this amazingly beautiful home with a complete, just vacation spot in the backyard. But honestly, I think for me it was a little bit easier because I've lived in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different homes from childhood through adulthood. So I had my own home for a while before I left to grad school, and then to Ohio. And so this is 6. I am finding as I get older that I'm a lot less emotionally tied to inanimate objects. Which, everybody's like, my home, but we knew we also didn't want to live here in retirement. And so I was like, well, what are we doing? Which I know a lot of people are probably going to hear this, whoever does hear this, hopefully it is a lot of people, are going to hear this and say, yeah, but if the longer you would have paid in it, the more you would have gotten back. Not with the pandemic. There was not a guarantee with the pandemic that would have actually happened, considering the housing market.
And the housing market was shifting.
Yeah, and it's already shifting. It's been going down, actually, since we sold the house. we got in on the final bump of the boom. Might even been a little bit towards where it was falling a little bit, which our amazing realtor, who's now a friend of ours, is she kind of advised us like, hey guys, because we called her and said, what do you think we should do? And she's like, looking at the projections. I pay attention to politics as part of my job, looking at the economic situation in the country and what the upcoming election could potentially do and things like that. I was like, maybe we just pull the trigger and say deuces.
Right. So if we're serious, let's do it now, because it didn't look like it was going to yield as much ROI for us if we waited another year. But all those positive things, there were still some emotional aspects of it, and you're probably right. This was the third home I've purchased as an adult, and I lived in one house that I truly remember for my entire childhood. But I think more than anything, it was probably the space that I felt most at home in for the longest time. So I think it's probably safe to say that yes, there was a significant amount of excitement, but mixed with, I know that the best decision is for us to sell this house. And I don't want to pay into an apartment while I'm here, because what if I do leave? I'm going to have to break a lease, right? I want to be able to have the flexibility that RV life gives you. So I think that was a huge factor too. But also too, in terms of selling the house, yes, there was excitement, but there was also a little bit of, I don't know, sadness is really kind of a strong word, but I was very much aware of it. But we were so boom, 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 process oriented, because I think we have slightly different recollections of how the story went. But then all of a sudden we were just on the same page of, what if we sold the house? And then it was a Saturday or a Sunday, and we were in San Antonio, and in my recollection of it, when I felt like we were both really on the same page, I think we called our realtor that Monday.
Well, yeah, because I remember we were looking at like the jobs that you were gonna maybe be looking into, and it kept coming down to, well, I can't take this much money because depending on how long it's going to take us to sell the house, versus then we're paying for 3 different households. And so I have to hit this. But there were some really good jobs out there that you might have, looked into that we had passed up on a couple times. And I was like, the only reason why we're passing up on this is the idea that we're going to have 2 mortgages, for a short amount of time just for you, because if we would end up not living in the same location and just even be an hour or 2 away from each other, like, closer than we are now, if the biggest issue with the income is, well, I have to maximize this or else I have to say no to a good opportunity, because what if it takes us 3 or 4 months to sell the house, and then we have to, I have to pay for rent, and then we have to. So finally I was like, we had the RV at that point. I was like, why are we even worried about this? Like, why don't we just sell right now before the market drops out? And if you're cool with it, because you had mentioned maybe doing that in lieu of renting, and maybe that could save a little money. And I was like, don't pause your dream for money. Like, that's ridiculous. If that's a place that you want to work, or that's a job that you want to be in, or that brings us closer to being in the same spot again, and all we're looking at is money, like, that's so not how I want to make decisions in my life, because so many decisions are already driven by money. The size of the house that you can get, the size of the vehicle that you can get, the size of the RV that you can get, the clothing designers, everything is so driven by money, and it's exhausting. And I was just like, yes, part of why I'm where I'm at is because I absolutely love my job, but all of it is also, I work in a place where in my career, it's rare because the district cares, and I didn't always work in districts like that. And I didn't always work in universities like that, like there were times with the previous university where they couldn't give us money, not because they didn't want to, but because just the financial situation of education sucks. And so, I was like, I don't want this to be a question of money, like the ability to get closer to each other. So I remember I just looked at you and I was like, why don't we just sell the house?
And that was it. And then we called Reagan, and then we went through kind of a whirlwind couple of months, because that was late January-ish of 2023, so it was right at the start of the new year. We were shooting to get our house on the market at that point by spring break. But then we hit a couple of bumps in the road as we were getting the house ready, and it's been a while since I thought about this, but we went to go...
I think it was like the week right after. It wasn't much later than spring break that we got it set.
It was only... So spring break is mid-March. We got the house on the market by April Fool's Day, by April 1st. I think that's how the time frame played out. So we were really only a couple weeks behind our target, even with a water leak in the guest bathroom that caused some serious issue. And we had to scramble and scramble.
I forgot about that leak.
Yeah. So there was a water leak in our guest bathroom. It was a Jack and Jill bathroom. And long story short, it came down to somebody had made a repair up in the attic and didn't use the correct...
For the AC. They didn't use the correct AC drip pan. Or it was leaning, or something happened that... Yeah.
An elbow joint.
The plumbing was messed up, that's right. Because I remember I was like, shoot, if I had been willing to get into that wall, I could have fixed that joint.
Right, but as we were fixing that, we realized that had clearly been an issue before, because when they went in, they found black mold, and we were... One, I was thinking, gosh, is this why our allergies were so bad? But two, clearly it had been an issue that somebody didn't bother to fix correctly before. So we put our foot on the gas, and the insurance company was kind of taking their sweet time, even though our insurance company, he knew what we were up against and what we were trying to do. So we'll give kudos to Service Masters here out of Harlingen. They have an office here in McAllen, but Miss Rebecca... Man, she knew what we were doing, and she knew our situation, and she kept that insurance adjuster in line in terms of timeline, and she got it done and sorted. And really, they were waiting on us to be able to take enough days off of work for them to be in the house doing the work. So we had to do that over spring break. And then, as soon as they were done, pictures were taken.
They cleared, because I remember they cleared the mold right before then, and I was able to come in because of my mold allergy.
Right.
I was able to come in and sit while they did the repairs.
Right.
I remember watching Hallmark with my mom.
Right. But all that happened, and we came to our closing day. We got to close on the house on my birthday. Yeah. That was a great gift. But I do remember us rushing around a little bit on the last day, just making sure we had everything done that we wanted to. But we still took about 10 minutes to go put our feet in the pool.
I think that was the part that I missed the most, but for my health, it was probably the part that was the worst of the house.
Skin cancer is a real thing, and you've had clear skin checkups.
My dermatologist is like, I've never seen your skin this good. And this is with, like, playing sports outside and coaching outside. And she's like, I've never seen your skin this good since I've been your doctor. And I was like, we sold the house with the swimming pool. She goes, smartest move you've ever made. I was like...
I know. But we wore SPF 100, so we did all the things that we were supposed to. And even just being outside, enjoying our backyard, our very just simple but really nice backyard oasis, yeah, ended up being the best thing for your skin health. And honestly, probably mine too. Not long after, I had a small spot that they had to kind of cut out. So probably just a good thing as we think about aging. But now we're on this now we're kind of thinking about this mentality of home is where we get to park it, right?
Right.
And if that leads us to kind of the next segment is kind of what's next in RV life. We have some ideas of some topics we want to talk about. I think we can share some ideas about lessons learned for how we went about choosing an RV park. I think we can also probably talk about the Weekend Warrior RV that we had versus when we realized it wasn't meant for full-time living. That's a whole story in and of itself, because we started off with a really great one that we truly loved, and now we're in a much larger fifth wheel. We had to get you a whole new vehicle to pull the bigger one.
And it goes...
And it makes a whole lot of diesel, like, angry sounds.
It's not green, but it's a lot of fun for this Texas kid.
It's not green at all, but then where's the balance? Lower carbon emissions with our RV with solar. So like we upgraded significantly, and there's a whole learning process I think we can talk about from lessons learned with that. But honestly, it's not all going to be about RV life too. So when we talk about RV life topics, hopefully we both are able to sit down and record. But if you pay attention to our social media or the YouTube channel, the channel is about living life outside of the work that we do. And because we don't always get to be in the same space, some of our content is RV life, kitchen stuff when I'm home on a Tuesday evening cooking dinner and what that might be like. Or just other things that we want to talk about. I know as soon as we are able to get the weather to cooperate with us, we're really itching to get back into some bike riding. You had surgery last fall, so you spent late fall and all of spring rehabbing your shoulder. So we didn't get to go on many bike trips, but
no, we didn't. And I want a new bike at work. Oh my goodness! And I cannot wait to break it in when it's not 5 million degrees outside.
It is so hot in South Texas. Yet one more reason as to why this far South Texas is not our long-term home. But we'll get into those types of things too. Like
and the road to the pros, the pickleball journey.
I don't think I will be doing any professional pickleball playing, but
I know I will not be. I am not that good, but I'm really enjoying picking up pickleball.
I'm just there to have a good time. But so those types of things, but honestly too, like here we are in our mid-40s and we are very actively thinking about what happens after 10 years from now when we get to hit retirement life and how we've set ourselves up now for success, but taking, our listeners and our YouTube channel folks on some adventures as we think about retirement property and what that looks like and what we're looking for and why. So all of that kind of revolving around this theme of, yes, we are both stationary in our respective locations right now. That wouldn't work for everyone. I think we're both highly independent people, so that's why it works for us.
I think we're goal-oriented, so we're like, okay, this sucks. I mean, it does. Let's keep it real. But it's also the idea that, again, we know that we have X amount of time, for retirement. And then after that, it really doesn't matter. Since we're retired, our jobs aren't going to link us anywhere. And so it's a very goal-oriented, hard work pays off type of situation, being in two separate locations. And I think besides being, kind of independent-minded, we're also, we have a lot of things that we'd like to do to occupy that time.
Yes.
And that's what's kind of important. And the introvert versus extrovert.
I am the introvert.
I am not at all. I think that helps too. Sometimes I joke that her relationship is easier with me when I'm not around because you'll notice I have a little bit of ADHD, a lot of bit of ADHD, and my mind moves a million miles a minute, and so poor thing when she looks at me sometimes, and one of my little, I call it brain zoomies, like our dog, when our dog gets zoomies, my brain works like that. She just looks and smiles. It's sweet. And I go, okay, I don't know the 5 different things you mentioned in that one conversation, but I'll try. What? And then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And then I break it down again.
But what I think you just described is there's a balance. So, but all that, but that is also very applicable to not just our personal life, but how we view our professional lives. Our professional lives are good. They obviously provide an awful lot of provide for us in a lot of really positive ways. I think the stickler point is that it would be great if they could do that with us in the same location. But because we are so adamant about our mutual goals in terms of retirement, there are decisions that we are not going to allow ourselves to make that potentially jeopardize those or somehow set us back too far. And I think there's an awful lot of content that I think we can talk about too in that regard. But all kind of stemming from this, we are who we are at work. We do what we do because we enjoy it. But at the end of the day, that is really only a part of our identity. And we are trying to live life outside of all of that so that we can find ways to make the best use in most of our time on the times that we do get to either be not at work or together. Kind of though, what's next for that's kind of what's next for the podcast, and kind of thinking about RV life and the other topics. If we were to kind of jump into any sort of the summary and or closing remarks, I think when it comes to thinking about this particular topic with RV life and why we chose it, the sentiment of encouragement comes to mind for me. I feel like there are probably still an awful lot of people who, well, there are people who are doing their part to kind of seize their own day, whatever that looks like for them, so to speak. They're living the life where and how they want to, but it seems like some people might still have some apprehension about that, and I think I was one of those people initially, who might be thinking, I can't do that. Like, that's crazy. There are perceptions. I'm a professional. You know what? I'm still a professional. I'm still, a department head and administrator in my job. And I come home and put on shorts and t-shirts and Birkenstocks and live RV life every single day after that. But I think that the sentiment of encouragement is whatever your RV life example is, try to push yourself to kind of get past the I can't do that sentiment. And ask, and start asking yourself, can I really do that? Obviously, because we're planners and we like to plan, we had a contingency plan if we realized this really isn't what we wanted to do, or if it just didn't jive with our personalities anymore. But then being brave enough to do it and just kind of getting out there and trying to really have fun with it. So if I kind of try to think about the closing remarks for this particular podcast with this topic about RV life in general, I think it's encouragement, a contingency plan, and being brave enough to take new opportunities. Is there anything you might add to that? No? So thank you for joining us today. Be sure to find us wherever you download your podcast, as well as on YouTube and social media by searching kro.Productions. And if you know anything about our YouTube channel, you know that we like to end most of our videos with a sentiment of, until next time, please be sure to live life outside of the work that you do.